warm welcome to ExpertsConnect on TeachSomebody.com, and I'm your host, Kadian Davis-Owusu. Today, we're privileged to have the renowned TEDx speaker and empowerment strategist, Mr. Pierce J. Brooks, founder of Empowered Storytellers, and our conversation will be about finding meaning in madness. Hi, Pierce. How are you doing?
Hi, Katie, and I'm doing great, and thank you so much for having me. I do want to let you know and your guests know that I am not the only thing that I'm an expert in is, and I wouldn't even say I'm an expert in this, is walking my own journey. I don't claim to be an expert on anything else, and really what I try to do is just share my life and any insights I have along the way. And if it is helpful to someone, then then makes it all the better.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Pierce, can you briefly tell us about your background?
Absolutely. So I'm a former uh, college athlete that experienced several rock bottoms along the way, from um, coming short of expectations, lost scholarships, and in the midst of that, losing my father, and trying to navigate how to respond to all of those things pretty much simultaneously. And some of the or unmet expectations was um, everybody around me thinking that I was supposed to get to this level that I really never got to, and how I had to kind of create my own identity. And I spent a long time doing that. And I just kind of now, in the last few years, have really started to go along this path of talking about my life, sharing what I've gone through, and speaking using my voice. And that's what I do. Like you said, I'm an empowerment speaker, and I also work with one-on-one people, kind of life coaching, one-on-one, and team building. So that's what Pierce J. Brooks is all about.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Pierce, can you please tell our audience what are you most passionate about?
I am most passionate about I'm most passionate about zeroing in on my purpose,
Mhm.
and every day, one day at a time, trying to make decisions to go down the right path. And not only for myself, but the people that I work with, I tend to work with people who have that same type of um, want and need, but maybe they struggle with how to get there and what tools to use to stay focused or to view things a certain way. And I love helping people with those type of things. And so that's one thing. The second thing is I've experienced, as I mentioned, a lot of kind of rock bottom moments in my life.
Yeah.
And so one thing I'm very passionate about is using those experiences, even if they are, horrible, as bad as they can be, but
Yeah.
looking at them in a way that they can enhance and be used for our good, instead of a victim mentality of like, why did this happen to me type thing. So I would say that's what I'm most passionate about.
Great. Thanks for sharing. And Pierce, you lost scholarships from 4 universities. How did that happen?
It's a long story, kind of, but I'll make it short. So I went to the University of San Francisco. My coach, halfway through the year, who recruited me, was fired. A new coach came in, and this was after the season. And during that summer, he called me to say, Pierce, we're not going to have you back for the sophomore season. And this was about 2 weeks before school started, and I didn't really have a lot of options to transfer anywhere. Then I went to a junior college, had a commitment to University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I didn't have enough credits to transfer over from University of San Francisco, so that fell through. Then I committed to University of New Orleans, and this something called the BP oil spill happened, which defunded several of the universities in the Gulf in that area, and so University of New Orleans went from a Division I to a Division III school, which couldn't get scholarships, and then I lost that. I ran out of what was very slim on options. Went to University of Texas A&M Kingsville, played a season there. We had a losing season. Um, the coach told me, along with 12 other players, that we were not allowed to come back, and that was heading into my senior year, and so I really had no options. And the only thing that I could find was a small school called Dickinson State University in North Dakota, and that's where I ended up graduating. And really, it turned out to be the only school that I loved to attend, because it wasn't just about my value as a basketball player, but they looked at me as a person. So yeah, it was a loss for scholarships, but I gained much more in that process and journey than I lost.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you've gone through traumatic events in your lifetime, and I'm really sorry about that, Pierce. Yet you have managed to successfully overcome each obstacle. Let's focus again on completing your university education. What motivated you to keep going, even though you were facing all these tragedies?
You know, I I think that I understand that I've experienced a lot of traumatic events, but I don't tend to view it that way, because I really think it's part of life. I don't think I've experienced more bad than anyone else. I think we all have our unique stories, obviously.
Yeah.
And so for me, I never, because of that, I never really viewed it as, just bad things happen to me. So that also helped me move, because I felt like, this is part of my journey. And second, growing up, I had a family and people and certain people around me that enforce in my head that I was here for a reason,
Mhm.
and that I had a purpose for being here. And it turned out to not be what everybody else thought it was going to be, which was basketball. But I still held on to that idea, even if it wasn't the result that everybody expected. I still would there was a mantra of mine, why am I here? I'm here for a reason. And I kept on trying to search for that purpose. And so when basketball fell through, at that point, it's like, what other way am I going to be successful than to get an education? It was just what I felt my responsibility was. And so that's all those things together really, really motivated me. And I, maybe about right after my freshman year, I knew that basketball was just a vehicle to get my education. That was the most important thing.
Beautiful. So I'm getting from you that perspective, support, and vision are three most important factors to really pursue one's goals. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And you spoke about the loss of your dad to suicide. Again, I'm sorry. What's your message to people who are dealing with loss, especially those who have lost parents or family members to suicide?
My message is just, you're not alone, first of all,
Yeah.
and that I've noticed with myself that I didn't talk about these things for years and years. I mean, there were close friends that I had that didn't know any of this stuff. And so I started to see that keeping this stuff close to my vest for me did not work, because I was still dealing with it, but in probably unhealthy ways. And it turned out for me that talking about it and just sharing my life and what I've gone through, and also hearing what other people have gone through too, that which helps to reinforce, like, you know what, Pierce, like, it's not just you that bad things happen to, bad things happen to everybody, and they're just maybe different, right? So I think one, talking it out is one thing I would say. There's at least for me, what I did was, the pain and loss comes from expectations. The expectation that my dad was going to be here for X amount of years. He and I weren't good during that time, so I expected that we were going to mend our relationship and that we would have a talk and things like that. And so all that did not happen. And so that adds to that pain and loss. What kind of balanced that for me was trying to find a way to be grateful. What could I be grateful for? I could be grateful that I had a father for 19 years. A lot of people don't have that. I could be grateful for the good moments that we had, because there's plenty of great memories. And I also can be grateful for the bad moments, because with this idea that everything is for good for me, even the bad is going to be a lesson somewhere. And so I think, the pain and loss with the gratitude is leads to acceptance. And after acceptance, I try to find a way to have meaning in all of that. It's going to kind of lead me to, I guess, a purpose in my life. And so now it's speaking, right? Now I can use those experiences to kind of drive a mission, right? So that's what's worked for me, and I know that's worked for, some of the people that I work with. And so that's what I would say. But it's all about, it takes time and what works for you. But I think trying to find, those ways you can be grateful in the midst of tragedy is key.
Yeah, I really like the idea of being grateful. Gratitude is really important in tragedy. It's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And throughout a great portion of your life, Pierce, you've dealt with social pressure. Can you tell us more about this experience?
Yeah, it was those expectations growing up. As the tallest kid, as I mentioned in TEDx, and everybody around me. When you're the tallest black kid, you're supposed to be at the NBA, and so uh, that label was put on me, and I wore it for a long time. I didn't in the beginning. I just said, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do, and so that with that label comes expectations and pressure. And there was a period of time right around the middle of high school where I did not match up to that. And everybody around me just had something to say.
Mm.
My coaches would say, Pierce, you're not doing this, all that. Teachers would say, oh, Pierce, we thought you were going to be this. I mean, literally everybody. My father was like, he would send me notes sometimes. Pierce, you'll never be what you think or anybody else thinks you're going to be. So all that stuff around me was just heavy. And for me, what I did was I did isolate, but I just dove into myself, and it took time for me to find my own voice, because I had lived so long being, it's like being in a car. Basically, you're driving a car and everybody else is your GPS and telling you turn left and turn right, and you don't know where to go. And I had to learn how to drive and listen to my own directions, basically. And so I think we all can relate to that in some way, whether it be social pressure from our parents to, finish a university, go to a certain university, study this, um, social pressure from, well, yeah, like I talked about, when you get married, and from a partner. I mean, we get it all the way around. And with social media, it's only expanded that, because now you're comparing yourself to, everybody else is at this level and I should be here. And so it's a weight on all of our shoulders. And I'm constantly trying to evaluate how to, one, free myself of that weight, and how I can work with my clients to free them of that weight as well. So that's my experience, and the experience of many others.
Great. So, what key strategies did you implement to handle social pressure?
So separation from the crowd,
Yeah.
I so even to this day, I I I tend to make larger decisions by committee. Um, and if I with my team, I ask everybody what they think, and I think that's important because that just work. That's my comfort for teamwork, right? I don't make really isolated decisions for big decisions. So I say, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Um, Before, I used to just say, what do you think? And I would do that,
Yeah.
right? Now I ask, what do you think? And I say, why? Why do you think that? And then, I get from the trusted kind of, brain trust that I have. I get the information there, and then from there, I make my own decision. And so the way that led me to be more confident in my decisions was to make more decisions and be okay with the results and make mistakes. So as I isolated from the crowd a little bit, I just started, yeah, making my own decisions, and I fell sometimes and I rose sometimes, and I was still alive all throughout it. So that I think it's momentum, really. It's building confidence one decision at a time. That you know what, um, I, I I I can lead myself uh, to a better place. But I do believe that it's not just about isolating, and it's not about only listening to your voice, because I think that's dangerous too.
Yeah.
I think there's a balance between trying to find accurate thinking by one, clearing up your voice and making sure that there are good people around you who are sound, who have the same values that you do. They care about you as a person, not what they can do for you or
Yeah.
what you can do for them, right? Um, they just genuinely want what's best for you and vice versa. And so it took a long time to get there, and I'm still learning about people, as we never stop learning, right?
No.
But I think that is what has helped me over time.
Beautiful. And I love what you said that we could basically build confidence one decision at a time. I really love it. You've been giving us a lot of gold pairs.
That's because I've been given gold all throughout my life, so I'm just passing it on. It's not me.
Great. So, having had a basketball career, what lessons have you learned from basketball that applies throughout your own life?
It's a great question. There are really too many to count, but off the top of my head, I've learned that to be to be successful, and by success, I strictly mean doing the best that you can do. I'm not talking about, numbers and results here, wins and losses, but to really put your best foot forward, you have to work on it every single day,
Yeah.
and you have to sacrifice something. You have to sacrifice either eating bad, or hanging out with your friends, or going to a party, or sleep. There's something you're giving up, and you're giving it up for something that's, for more long-term results, and not a short-term gain, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have to do it every day, even when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, and
Yeah.
it hurts, and it so the discipline is one thing. I think another is how important culture is on a team,
Yeah.
because I think culture was the biggest factor for wins and losses. The winning teams that I've been on, both sides, the winning teams, there's this camaraderie and a specific design of what your role is.
Yeah.
No one is trying to. I mean, the star player, he knows he's the star, or she knows she's the star, and everybody else knows they're fitting a specific role, and they execute that role, and they just want to do that, and everybody's looking out for each other. So That's the culture of a winning team. The culture of a losing team is often everybody's on their own path, trying to be the star or trying to take something away from their teammates. And so you're almost playing against each other as you're playing against a team. So I think just off the top of my head, those, I'd say discipline and culture are some of the biggest lessons that I learned from playing basketball.
Powerful insights. Thank you. And Pierce, what's your overall message to our audience?
My overall message is again finding meaning in madness, because just thinking of the year 2020, and I don't think there's anybody you can talk to if you say how was your year, and by the end of what they say, there's no way you wouldn't say wow over something that they've experienced, a loss to a job, or someone that they loved, or someone that they knew, and all these different pivots that we took this year. I mean, I'm far from where I thought I would be when I started the year, but that's all been good for me, because I've just really, again, it's this philosophy that I have, that everything that is bad or is good is for my good. And so I think when you evaluate that and you can come to gratitude specifically, not just as a blanket thing, but a lot of people talk about gratitude, and it's when you hear it, it's just like, okay, how am I going to be grateful for this, this pain that I had? But I really think if we ask the right questions, we find the right answers. And so I do think it's important to find. I think our life has meaning. We're all here for a reason, and in search of that meaning, we can get through whatever we're getting through.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Pierce. Wow.
No, thank you.
Yes, so thanks again for your willingness to share your knowledge with us. The information that you have provided on finding meaning through madness was extremely powerful and inspiring. To our audience, thanks for tuning in on Experts Connect. I'll see you next week, where we will discuss exciting topics that will ignite your passion for learning. If you like the information presented, please head on over to teachsomebody.com and give us an applause. You can also share your comments and ask your questions. Please also follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Ciao!